I really don't do this anymore, but music. Certain music songs I was listening to or whatever, people would be like, "Why are you listening to that?" But at the time when I was conversing with people like in the training facilities and in gyms I was at, I was relatable, and people was willing to open up to me because of like we had a connection, something to connect on. And so my thoughts on that has kind of swayed, but is it wrong? And we kind of already addressed this, but is it wrong to put yourself in those environments, or is it one of those things where it's like you have to know your strengths and weaknesses again? Because like right now, like I don't really listen to as much as like that type of music anymore because I don't know, I just don't find it appealing or whatever. And then like understanding like how my brain works and how my brain thinks, it just doesn't work for me anymore like it did before. But I'm also more mature as far as my personality. I'm able to bring out conversations in other ways, so I don't need to find relatable. Like I'm not as socially awkward now. Like, but for someone that may need help to get to a point to make someone comfortable to be able to talk to them about like Christian living and things that they can do and shouldn't do, how God tells us to live, and then also being able to explain like, okay, this is that, but you have to be able to disassociate these certain things. Is that okay to be in that place, or should Christians be like strict cut, like no, I should not do this, be that quote unquote boring Christian?
I don't know what you mean by boring, but if you read how Jesus addressed the crowds, and if he dealing with people who were in agriculture, who was farmers, he gave analogies based on that, you know, the tares and the wheats and stuff like that. But I think our challenge of it is, as Christians, we're so quick to say right or wrong, and the Holy Spirit's job is to change them. And I think what we should do, and our mindset should be as the primary focus is what is it about Jesus that's so great that made me change?
Dang, that's low-key fire, Dad.
You know what I mean? So it was something about him that changed me from wanting to knock somebody upside the head. You know, that stopped me from using foul language.
Yeah.
You know, it was something in explaining that. And so if you look at the commercials today, they present a problem, a gap of something. And if you got a headache and the commercial is about aspirin, they present the headache, a person with a headache, migraine or something like that. And then they say, hey, this will solve that. Well, that's the way we should do with Christ. You know, when your friends come to you with those problems, with that challenge, whether it's relation or whether it's finance or whatever, we was like, hey, I had the same situation, but I read this in John, or I read this in Philippians or Isaiah, and that helped me. Now you're promoting what Christ did, his word.
And now you're validated because they're coming to you for the help.
Exactly.
We talked about this multiple times when it comes to like business, like, you know, doing things like people are not going to listen to you at first, but when they like don't know what to do and they come to you and ask, and you can show it, like, yeah, we've talked about that multiple times.
But here's the foundation of that. When you tell them, look what I learned in John chapter 17, Jesus said we should be one, and the world will know that we are his by the unity that we have. Now that you're not giving them your thoughts or what you think, you're giving them what God said. And so you're pointing to him and edifying him.
Yeah.
But we're so quick to say, I don't think, or this you shouldn't do because of this.
Do you feel, though, that, because I've found myself in these situations, I do reference God. I do. But when I do reference God, it's almost like I see something in them be like, oh, that doesn't apply to me.
Wait, repeat that for me again. Oh, okay.
Go ahead. Repeat it.
Like, if I am giving advice to one of my friends that's not a Christian,
right?
Not like, so if they're not a Christian and like they ask me or they call me or whatever and they're wanting advice, and then like I start talking, and then if I reference God, it's like something in them is just like shut off to the idea.
They just like stop listening.
It's like,
okay,
that doesn't apply to me.
That's not unusual at all. I mean, did everybody listen to Jesus?
No.
No. And the biggest thing is we will generally say, well, God did this and God did that. Take them to the word. So when you ain't around, maybe they'll go back to his word. And now God, when they pick it up or if they're reading it, now God can speak to them, you know? And so we have to understand, we have to take the focus off of us and put it on Christ.
You know what? You know how you said earlier, like what was the reason why we decided to choose God?
Mm-hmm.
You know what mine is? You guys might beat me up on it, but comfortability. Like, I don't know. Like you've always said that, and I feel like this is my strength and also my weakness is that I tend to do things to be comfortable. Mm-hmm. Which to a certain extent, I'm perfectly happy with that.
Tell you that all the time. In athletics, you satisfied with being good.
Yeah, but I think that's why my faith is what it is because I think I have an understanding of what God can do with me. I'm comfortable with that. Like I'm comfortable with putting my life in God's hands. So in certain aspects of life, like yeah, that could be bad. Like when it came to like training for football or whatever, I did what I had to do to be comfortable. But I don't think football was my route here on earth anyway. Mm-hmm. I think it's the stuff kind of, and I would say doing the stuff that I'm doing now is the intro to what God is trying to get me to do. But I think comfortability is like, I don't know, that's what made me choose God because like with understanding God and God's love, I can be comfortable in any season that I'm in. And we have talked about it before, like some people go through hard times or whatever and they freak out, but like I'm okay. Like Ayla and I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago. Like when I was at the other gym, there was months where on paper, as far as bills and expenses goes, I was in the red. But everything got taken care of. I don't really understand how. Well, I understand how God did, but like I never really was just like freaking out because I don't know. I've just always been comfortable that God is going to provide and God's going to, be there for me. So that's kind of why like I chose God because understanding and loving God is just comfortable for me in my everyday life.
Do you think he wants us comfortable?
Really in your circumstance though, I don't know if comfortable is the right word.
No, maybe. Yeah. I be getting my words mixed up sometimes, Ayla, so maybe.
well, think about this. If you operate in your comfort zone,
I see what you're saying. That's not what I mean. I just mean as far as my feelings, emotional goes on different aspects. I'm not saying like the things I do, I only do it to a comfortable level, except for football. I did that to a comfortable level. But as far as emotional, if I walk into a situation where most people will get like beat up on, I'm fine because I'm comfortable with understanding that God is providing.
I don't think comfortable is the right word.
Well, let's stick on that comfortable, whatever level you're talking about.
Okay.
You going into a place and you sharing Jesus with somebody.
Yes.
Okay. That may not be comfortable. It may or may not be comfortable. But I think God puts us in situations sometimes that we are uncomfortable and the results will come about in no way that we can get the credit but him.
That's what I mean. In that situation, I'm comfortable with being in that situation. Like, I know it sounds crazy and it's like a lot of words and whatever, but I think Ayla might be right. It might be the wrong word, but I am comfortable with being in an uncomfortable situation.
Okay, I see what you mean.
And so when I was saying like before when I feel like I had to connect to people through like the music or I don't need that. Like I'm okay with being that guy that be like, oh, you do this and you do this, that, and the third, or we do this. I'm okay with being in that realm now because I'm very confident in myself and my relationship with God. Does that make sense?
Confident, I think, is a better word I would use, or right,
a biblical word. Like Paul says, whatever state you're in, be content.
Yes, that's good. Yeah. That's the right word.
Is it bad that I just want to keep saying comfortable because you guys tell me it's not the right word?
Well, that's you.
It makes it.
You're
it
not
makes
saying
what
humility.
It makes what you're saying a little bit confusing. I understand your point, but the actual word doesn't like.
Yeah, I know. Like as I hear myself, I'm like, okay, that's why I was trying my best to explain it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we as Christians, we have to understand that we supposed to be in the world, but not of the world. Mm-hmm. But we are looking like the world today because the things that God says is detestable, abomination, impure, we're now accepting and saying is okay.
And sometimes participating.
Yeah, and so that makes us as Christians not unified.